Hey everybody, welcome to our first ever episode of BP Batting Practice with Bragan and Panda. This is a new thing we're trying out just to do some sports talk for everybody to enjoy, just some stuff going on around in the real world and not just keep it to pennant chase. So we're going to be talking a little bit of baseball, NBA, some college hoops and college football as well, NFL, just kind of covering pretty much anything and everything that is making headlines each and every week. So I am joined tonight by my wonderful friend Bragan. How are you doing, Bragan?
I'm doing great tonight, Panda. How about you?
I'm doing pretty good. And then I also have our lovely friend Chio. Chio, how are you doing tonight?
Doing great. How about you?
I'm pretty good. So tonight we are actually going to start with a MLB topic that we all probably have some passionate opinions about, and I'm sure you do as well. But tonight we're going to be talking about the new MLB rule that is going into effect, where the intentional walk is no longer 4 pitches outside. It is now just a sign from the dugout that the manager does, and then it's automatically put in place. So I'm just going to open up the floor to you guys. What are your thoughts on this rule? And how do you think it will affect the game of baseball as a whole?
Well, obviously they're trying to shorten the time that games take up, but I don't really see that as something that needed to be changed. Because when you got the 4-pitch intentional walk, it takes about a minute to send the runner to first. I don't think taking a minute out of one in every 5 of a team's game is going to have a whole lot of impact on knocking the time down. So I don't really see the reason for this. I've heard a lot of talk about maybe having a pitch clock where you have 30 seconds to pitch the ball. That would make a lot more sense than reducing a minute here and there. If you wanted to shorten the length of games, then there's better ways to do it that aren't going to drastically change the way games are played. Because having the 4-pitch intentional walk, it doesn't happen very often, but there's still times where it'll get overthrown or just thrown away by the pitcher, and players capitalize off of that, and that's a huge thing. Changing that really just doesn't do a whole lot of good and is more or less irritating more people than not.
Chio, what are your thoughts on this?
I don't really have a strong opinion on it. I'm certainly going to list the crazy plays that have occasionally accompanied intentional walk, like the wild pitches. But hey, if it shortens the game length and thereby engaging the viewers more, then I have really no problems with it. And to be honest with you, I don't think we're even going to notice the quirks of the new mechanics after a short while. But that being said, I don't think intentional walks were the root of the whole problem with the length of the games issue. I think it had to do more with a lot of pitchers taking forever to set up and wind up to throw the damn ball, and also the those damn TV ads that keep popping up like every inning or so. So I think to fix the problem, the MLB has to dig deeper into the real causes, not the fake causes like intentional walk. But that's up to debate, really.
Yeah, and they're also looking at doing some other stuff. One of the other ones that's kind of been proposed out there is games going to extra innings to just start with a guy on second base. Start the inning out that way. And so what do you guys think of maybe something like that?
I don't like it. I think if you look at overtime in all other sports, there's not really like a specific set of rules that are applying for the overtime and not applying for the overtime, except for football. So I think having like a runner already on second base or something at the start of the extra innings is going to take a lot of fun out of the extra innings, get the runners on base and advancing the runners and not whatnot. But again, that's really up to the MLB and the MLBPA to decide whether or not they want to implement these potential rule changes or not.
So, Bragan, what are your thoughts on this potential rule change?
It's stupid. It's a joke. I don't have a problem with trying to shorten the length of games so long as you're not trying to change the basics of the game. That's just, I mean, you're already starting a guy with a runner in scoring position. It takes a single to get him home. It's really not going to change anything, really. If both teams are starting out with the runner on second, then what's that going to change? I don't get that, because either way, a single's probably going to get him home. And how do you decide who's going to be starting out? Just whoever's on your bench? I haven't read into that. Do you guys know what the basis of that is?
Common sense would say it's probably whoever made the last out in the last inning or whoever's in that spot. So, if your leadoff hitter's up, it's probably the number 9 guy that goes on base. Otherwise, you have an issue with, well, what if they're not even in the game? How do you score that?
Yeah, maybe it's just the guy that was supposed to be coming up next.
But then what happens if it's your number 4 hitter? You don't want him on second. You'd rather have him in the box. You don't have a choice
because that's the new rule and it's stupid.
Yeah. I hate that rule too. I think it's
I don't understand it.
Yeah.
I mean, at least they're experimenting with some games that don't really matter. Not those games don't matter.
Yeah.
Low A ball, whatever. They don't. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, either way, I'm not on board, no matter how it goes. There's better ways to change it to make the game shorter. And I don't really think that the games need to be shorter. It's not about making the game shorter. It's just the fact that over time, people just don't have the patience to sit through it now for some reason. That's the problem. The problem isn't baseball. The problem is people and today's potential baseball fans. But as usual, they're just trying to accommodate for the minority of people that don't enjoy baseball because the games are too long, so that they can grow their business just like anyone else does. They want to reach out to a different group of fans. The younger fans aren't as intrigued by it because the games are taking too long. So now they're just trying to reach out to that group of people.
And why not do it in a way that's a little bit different? Like, come up with something such as limiting the amount of times the catcher can walk out to the pitcher. I understand their strategy in that, but come on. I mean, there's some guys that'll do it 5, 6, 7, 8 times an inning. And I understand, limit it the first 6 or something, or first 7. And then after that, okay, whatever, because you start to get more into those pressure situations where, being on the same page really does matter, but make it just like the pitching coach. You can't trot out there, and make it one free visit per inning, not per pitcher, because then you've got these innings where, you've got teams trotting out 3-4 guys and they're making 2 trips on every guy. Whew. And then we got a commercial break in between every pitcher coming in. Those are the innings that end up taking like a half hour. That's where the problem is. The problem's not with intentional walks or extra innings. I mean, those are isolated cases. How many times do you have an intentional walk? Not that often. How many times do you have extra innings? Not that often. What are you really accomplishing? You're changing, small parts of the game that are essentially meaningless. Why change them at all? And with the second base thing, you're going to turn it into college football. I hate college football overtime. I think it's the stupidest thing ever. You start on the 25-yard line, the opposing team. If you don't score, you're just sad. There's no point. It's like everything in this generation.
I like the concept of that. I like the concept, but starting them from the 25, just as far as football's concerned, is just too easy. They've been talking about changing the NFL to that too.
Oh, that
and
would be
maybe
horrible.
starting from the 50
Oh,
would be
God.
better, because even if you don't score, then you can still easily get a stop at the 50-yard line.
Right.
And it's all good.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
There's no automatic 68-yard field goal out there, so
Right.
that's something else to consider. And even if they started out with a guy on first in baseball, that makes it better, I guess, but it's still just kind of pointless.
Yeah.
It's not supposed to be a short game. The beauty of the game is the fact that there is no time limit, the fact that games can go on just forever and ever, and that's what true fans really love about it.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and you look at the other major sports. Look at basketball. I mean, they're overtime. The rules don't change. You don't get extra fouls. You get a couple extra timeouts. But the game is essentially the same game. Look at football. The game's essentially the same thing. The only thing that changes is how and when you can win. But there's no, I mean, at least at the NFL level, college level, obviously we've talked about, changing position. But I mean, when you start to tweak things about the actual game itself, I think that's when you start to get into some dangerous territory, because you're not just tweaking the rules, you're starting to actually change parts of the game itself, the strategy of it. And that's when, while you may bring in some new fans, that's when you could lose a lot of the older fans, or the fans that, have just kind of always been there, because they're just going to get turned off by changes that are too drastic. Intentional walks, okay. Putting guys on second base to start an inning in extra innings, not okay.
The MLB is going to continue pushing their luck with changing rules here and there so that they can grab onto a new generation of fans while still trying to hold on to the old ones. They're going to be changing things here and there, like the intentional walk. Obviously, if you're a baseball fan, that's not going to send you to the point of, completely giving up on baseball, but it could still, from a business standpoint, bring in a lot more revenue. And that's all that they're looking at. I don't think they're actually trying to shorten the game per se. It's just kind of changing things to make it more exciting.
Continuing on this beautiful game that is baseball, the Yankees reliever Betances, let's move on to him. So apparently he lost arbitration hearing, lost about $2 million that he wanted, and was criticized heavily by the president of operations of Yankees, Levine. And what do you guys think about his comments towards Betances and how he was treated throughout the arbitration process?
Well, see, after the arbitration hearing, when he started running his mouth about it, right? I'm not.
Yes.
That's my understanding. Yeah.
I don't understand that. He just completely, for no reason, just created some tension. And I don't understand that. It's all said and done, and now you have to go run your mouth and cause unnecessary problems. It's going to hurt the clubhouse. It's going to hurt your relationship with other players, and especially Betances. I just don't get what he had to gain by doing that. I don't. He's just being a dick.
Yeah, when I look at this situation, I agree completely with you, Bragan. And part of what kind of is upsetting is that, I mean, it's his right to go and to go before, arbitration, and to have his contract, present his own case. He's earned that right. That's part of his deal. That's part of baseball. That's part of, what MLB players are able to do, especially those in his position. And so it's almost one of those things where it's his right to go after that $5 million that he requested. And obviously his case was turned down. They didn't, for whatever reason. But that's not the story here. The story is the, repercussions afterwards. It happens. Sometimes players get denied their request. Okay, move on. I mean, he's still going to get paid $3 million instead of $5 million. There's no reason to burn bridges, not only with him but also his agent. I mean, I can't imagine you're going to want to, renegotiate with New York after all of this. So I just don't really see what they had to gain by sort of throwing him under the bus. I mean, it didn't make sense.
Yeah. And I mean, I obviously understood the concept of arbitration, but I never actually dug into it and realized what actually goes on in that room during that 90-minute stint where they're trying to figure out if he's worth $3 or $5 million. I mean, they're just tearing into the guy about why he's in $5 million and just how worthless he is, and just tearing him up. And that really kind of threw me off. I didn't realize how it actually went down, and it's no wonder that the guys that finish out their arbitration hearings very rarely sign on with the team the following year. It's because of things like that.
So, Chio, what are your thoughts on this? What are you kind of thinking?
Yeah, I completely agree with you guys. I don't understand how Levine called Betances a victim. A victim for Merriam-Webster is someone who is acted on and usually adversely affected by a forcer agent. So you're calling someone who is trying to get his best to get the pay that he deserves a victim after being an all-star for the past 3 seasons for a mere fraction of the Yankees budget. Like, are you kidding me? You're calling someone who got below his market value a winner because apparently there should be a clear distinction between pays of closers and setup men? Like, what is this? Like, this is discriminatory. This is like borderline discriminatory towards setup men and players of other positions. Like, personally, I don't care what role a player plays. If he's a great asset to my team and he wants that money, then I'm going to have to pay him that money, or at least near the value that he wants. Because if I don't, then I'm at risk of losing him to another team. The organization already as a whole ticked off the chances during the 90-minute arbitration period, where they clearly tried to devalue his worth as much as possible. And now Levine's just pushed him over the edge. Like, they got no shot at bringing him back when he hits FA in 2020.
And the big reason that they had for not giving him the $5 million as opposed to their offered $3 million was that, and he said, $5 million deals are only for high-end closers. And I really don't see at this, the game has evolved so much to the point that setup man is just as valuable as a closer. Having an elite setup man means just as much to your team and to winning as an elite closer does. And you have the best setup man in the MLB, and you're not going to pay him $5 million because he doesn't have that distinguished title. That's something that really kind of got under my skin.
Well, speaking of things that can get under people's skin, coming right up after this quick commercial break, we will go into the NBA and take a look at the latest and biggest trade over the NBA trade deadline, and that would be the Pelicans acquiring Cousins. So stay tuned.
Hey everyone, it's Chio. I just wanted to let you guys know of a wonderful travel itinerary called Dust Bowl. I used the itinerary to go to Miami, to North Korea, and even got a snapshot of the Supreme Leader himself for only $3.99 pesos. And you can go twice the distance for half the price, or half the distance for twice the price. Go check it out, guys.
All right, guys, we are back and ready to talk about the NBA. In case you've been living under a rock for the past few days, you should know that Damarcus Cousins is now a member of the New Orleans Pelicans. The Kings in return got Langston Galloway, Buddy Hield, Tyreek Evans, first and second round pick for this season. Who got the better end of this deal, and who's it going to help more in the long run?
Well, I mean, I think it's the so-so move for both the sides, like, in my opinion. And let me get this straight: the Pelicans obviously got better value because they did not have to give up as nearly as much as what you normally expect for a player of Cousins' caliber. I mean, it looks something that's done in 2K, And even 2K rejected the trade when people actually try to do it. So anyhow, the actual problem that I have with the acquisition of Cousins by Pelicans is that their games are way too similar in that they demand the ball in their hands to create opportunities for their team. Both of them rank in the top 6 in usage rate, with Boogie coming in at second at 37.5% and Anthony Davis at 6th with 32.5%. And their rates are absolutely unsustainable when they play together. And also, they also rely on their abilities to create off the dribble and sink mid to long range shots, with Davis's game built more around this game and Boogie having made the transition in the past couple of years. And I'm not really sure how they'll be able to compromise and complement each other on the court if it even comes to that. And being a Heat fan, it reminds me of the initial struggles that the big three of LeBron, Wade, and Bosh had with ball distribution and playing complementary to each other when they came together in 2012, I believe. And that took over a season to fully mesh out the solution. And I'm not sure if Davis and Boogie, who play the same position by trade, I mind you not, will be able to come up with a solution quickly enough and win enough games to convince both of them that Boogie, he should resign with the Pelicans in a season and a half. And to Davis, that this organization is worth building around and worth putting the trust in. And can they work it out? Sure they can, but they got their work cut out for them. And as for the Kings, they needed a restart and they got the restart, albeit at a very high cost. And Blake D-back has his work cut out for him as well.
Yeah, it's going to be one of those things that for the Pelicans, it's either going to flourish or it's going to blow up in their faces, and they're just going to be in an even worse spot than they were before. Like you said, they have very similar play styles, but when you think about it, you've only very few players in the NBA can guard either one of those guys. And if they learn how to split touches each game, then there's not a lot of teams that are going to be able to stop them in the paint.
Yes, of course.
Because you're not going to have two guys that can stop both of those guys on the floor at the same time. No one's going to be able to do that. Every game, there's going to be one of them that gets 20 and 10. That's almost a guarantee. One of them's going to get that. The other one might have a quiet night, but one of them's still going to have a big game, and you're not going to be able to stop them. Right now, though, after that trade, the Pelicans are just going to be very thin and lacking depth all around. It was a big gamble. I just don't hang off for them right now, and it was kind of a dirty move by the Sacramento front office to handle it the way they did anyway. Just a few days before the trade, they mentioned that Cousins was going to be their guy. He's not for sale. And then they just go and trade him. He even mentioned that the general manager mentioned that they had a better offer on the table too. So not only did you go against your word, trade your cornerstone franchise player, but then you admit to the fact that there's a better offer out there that you didn't jump on. You essentially just made you are the bitch of the entire league now. Everybody's going to be looking to take advantage of you because you just admitted that. That was just incredibly stupid all around.
Well, the Pelicans just finished up tonight getting beat by Houston. And I just want to throw a couple stats at you. Davis and Cousins each played Davis 32 minutes, Cousins 34. So spent a lot of time on the court together. The Pelicans as a team shot a total of 86 field goals. Davis had 21, Cousins had 19, so that was a combined 40. So they're sitting at just about half of the field goals attempted are coming from those two guys. And that's not a problem because, those are the ones that you want taking them. Now, the issue lies in they shot 7 3-pointers and only hit one of them combined. That's a little bit more of an issue. Now, the other bigger picture issue I see here too is it puts a lot of pressure on Drew Holiday to be, the point guard. They're counting on him to be the point guard to get those assists. If he's not moving the ball and if he's not able to assist, I think that's when you see scores like this where Houston wins 129-99. And the reason is this: Holiday only had 4 assists compared to 7 turnovers. That's terrible, terrible point guarding by him, because there's you've got to get the ball to these guys where they can move and cut and work together. And if you're doing that, the assists will go up. And I think until they learn how to move and not just either jack up threes or have to do more of the isolation stuff, I think this team could struggle. While it's a move maybe geared more towards the future, I really don't see it really propelling them all that far this year. I think New Orleans is still going to struggle pretty mightily, especially against the good teams.
Yeah, the biggest thing that they were lacking before was shooters. And really, by getting Cousins, you're not patching that up in any way. They made a sexy move at the deadline. It's getting fans in the arena, and that's all they really care about at this point.
And with that, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll be looking at the American Conference and also if Northwestern is finally going to make it to the big dance, and if that is true, how far can they go?
Hey guys, Bragan here to talk to you about Barry's pesticide-free ant and roach killer. Yes, at last, modern technology has produced an ant and roach killer that contains absolutely no harmful chemicals or pollutants. Just press the nozzle on the can, and it will signal our crack squad of exterminators who will charge into your home armed with rolled-up magazines. So throw away that bug zapper, dispose of those immoral roach hotels, bid adieu to your no-pest strip. Get Barry's pesticide-free ant and roach killer, the environmentalist choice.
And we are back from the break. The next topic up is the NCAA men's basketball, and we'll be looking at the American Conference right now. Right now, they only have 2 teams in the polls, SMU and Cincinnati, and many pundits believe that they're being very underrepresented in the polls. And what do you guys think about that?
Well, when you look at their non-conference records, which has a lot of impact on how high they're ranked in the polls and how many teams are in there, SMU doesn't have a single quality non-conference win all season. And Cincinnati hung tight with Rhode Island, who still hasn't lived up to any of the preseason hype. They did beat Iowa State and Ames in overtime. That's their only quality non-conference win. And that's something that they're going to be looking at come bracket time. The non-conference wins have just as much of an impact as the conference wins do when you're in this thin of a league. When you're in a league where the top 2 teams have already been decided, and it's just going to be about who comes out on top between SMU and Cincinnati. And that's all anybody's looking forward to at this point.
Yeah, when I look at it, I just it's not so much they're under appreciated or anything. It's like you think about how many college teams there are, and they're only going to rank the top 25, right? Just to think of the number of conferences and how good you have to be. You look at Cincinnati, SMU, and then you've got Houston at 19-8. Scroll through the top 25. Do you see any 19-8 teams there? No, it's not there. So it's like, I don't know if you could truly say that they're being underappreciated, because there's only one other team with 8 losses, and that's Virginia in the top 25. And so I think when you kind of look at it from that respect as a full picture, rather than maybe just pinpointing a single conferences here and there, and you take that big picture approach, I think it starts to clear things up a little bit more.
And usually in the American, you got Cincinnati, SMU, Houston, UConn in it, Tulsa, and obviously Memphis is struggling this year now that Josh Pastner's at Georgia Tech. But usually they're a lot more deep than they are this season. And I think that's why a lot of people are raising the question about it. as to why they're not being as represented and why they're not getting any attention. And that's why the teams that are supposed to be up there and competing like they usually do just aren't getting it done this year.
Yeah, yeah, I completely agree. Like outside of SNU and Cincinnati, there's really no team really worth noting in that conference. And like when it comes to subjective polls, the powers of the basketball world, like the Dukes and the North Carolinas, will always get the benefit of the doubt. But with that being said, the American Conference, they're not getting disrespected. I mean, they're, the SNU and Cincinnati's rankings could definitely be a bit higher, but as a whole, as a conference as a whole, they are very well represented. And if you look at SNU, they don't really have a, top win against a good opponent this year. And looking at their losses, they've lost badly to Michigan, who's probably a double-digit seed. They've lost to USC, a 6 or 7 seed, Boise, who's probably going to go to NIT, and Cincinnati, who's in their conference. So, I mean, when you look at their records and their schedules and the strength of the schedules as a whole, it's not a question about whether they're being underrepresented. It's really a question of whether these individual teams are getting as much attention as they merit. And I think that SNU and Cincinnati individually could certainly be garnering more attention from the polls and the media, but the conference as the whole and the other teams, no, they don't deserve it.
The word, if you think that Cincinnati and SMU aren't being as respected in the polls individually, where would you personally have them outside of 15 and 17?
I mean, to start with, Virginia has they don't have any, place. God, I screwed up.
That's all right. Just restart.
Just keep going.
Restart. Yeah, like some of these teams ranked ahead of them, like Virginia, they have no business like having those rankings.
Virginia is actually 18th. They're behind.
18th.
Yes.
Oh, they're behind.
Mm-hmm.
Either way, I mean, they're 8-7 conference play, 18 and 9 overall, and that's where you can, bring in conference favoritism to the table, because they're in easily the best conference in college basketball. Granted, they have lost 4 straight and 5 of their last 6, so they are just now falling off. But even now, they don't deserve to be ranked, I don't believe.
Chio, would you bump Cincinnati maybe up a little bit? I mean, that's kind of what I'm feeling when I'm looking at it, but what would you do?
Both of them deserve a little bump, like maybe a rank or 2 higher than what they're really right now at. And so moving on, Northwestern, man, it's been a long time coming for these Wildcats, haven't they? They've really had a great season so far, as they already have 20 wins, and they're right in the middle of a tournament berth. And do you guys think that they are going to get it? And if so, what seed do you guys envision the Wildcats ending up at?
I think they're definitely a lock at this point. Well, I don't want to say a lock. They've got 3 games left at Indiana, at home against Michigan, and Purdue. They win one of those games, no matter how they do in the Big Ten tournament, I think they're in it. I think that would definitely give them an 8 or a 9 seed this year in what's going to be a very deep NCAA tournament. And they're playing in a very competitive Big Ten conference this year.
Yeah, I think when I look at, I live in Ohio, so I've, pretty big with Big Ten. That's, the conference around here, this area. And when I kind of look at this conference overall across the board, this conference is down this year. So a lot of your powerhouses that are usually right up there in the, top 25 AP poll, for instance, Michigan State, Ohio State, some of these teams that are really usually up there have faltered this year. And I'm not going to put all of that as reasons for why Northwestern is doing so well, but I think you can truly attribute that being part of why this whole conference is so competitive and so deep. It's because some of the teams who are usually at the top, sort of just chewing through the conference, are not there this year.
Yeah. And when I'm looking at the field of competition coming up in this NCAA tournament, I just feel like that they lack the shooters to go much further than the second round of the tournament. And it's a good start for the program. Obviously, they've never been there before. I think they will be back, though. But just this year is not going to be the year where they're going to be that Cinderella team that takes us all by surprise and makes a Final Four run. That's not going to happen with this team. But it is a start and a step in the right direction for them.
I agree with that. It's like, I think it's only the second time in school history that they've had 20 wins in the season. And the previous one came last season, I believe. Yeah. And, their program is heading in a right direction. They're taking big leaps and bounds. And anyhow, I think for this year to really solidify their place in the big dance, they've got to take care of the business against Indiana and Michigan. And, if they keep the Purdue game respectable, I think they could be an 8 or 9 seed, as you said. But most likely I see them going as a 10th or 11th seed. And, it's going to be hard for them to make it past the first round with the level of competition that the tournament will going to have this season. But I hope that they can make some noise. That'll be fun.
That would definitely be fun to see and interesting to watch them make a run. But I can't see it happening with them. I just really can't. I mean, does anybody have a case for them being a potential dark horse?
Well, I think this game coming up March 5th against Purdue is going to be very telling. For one, the first game they played against Purdue, they got blown out pretty bad, but they were at Purdue. This next one, they get to be at home. So I think that's going to be a telling game to sort of predict where exactly they fall. They've had some time in between the two games. Regroup, refocus. It's not been pretty since then, losing to Illinois, losing to Maryland, but this is going to be your test. This is going to be, if you can keep this game close, if you can keep it respectable, I think that's when people really might begin to make that case that this could be a dark horse, that this could be sort of a sleeper going into the tournament, especially if they're able to seed somewhere at that 9, 10, 11, because every single year, those are where the upsets are happening, in those spots, the 9, the 10, the 11, right in there, right in the middle. And that's kind of where you want to be, because when you're there, you don't typically get out too quick unless you're sitting in that 8, 9 seed. You don't get too quick into the 1s and 2s. So if you can sit somewhere in the middle, you might have an easier road to be a Cinderella. So that would be one way, I think, maybe an outlier way that they could sort of make a true run this year. Well, we're going to take our final quick commercial break, and when we come back, we'll do a quick wrap-up, give you guys some fun stuff to think about, and then we will just a quick update on Howe as well, so you'll want to stay tuned for that. Hey everyone, this is Panda. I know you've been there before, trying to drive while also balancing your meal and drink from your favorite fast food restaurant. I'm here to tell you about a product that makes all of that easier. It's called the Folder Tray. Simply loop the strap over your head and the tray will instantly unfold, giving you lots of room to place whatever you need. Have a large drink? No problem. The tray includes an expandable cup holder meant to fit any size drink. This is a must-have product, but you better get them now because they're going fast. Call or click today. Well, we thank you all for making it this far. It's been a pleasure to be able to share our thoughts with you, and we hope that you've enjoyed it as much as we have enjoyed presenting it to you. We want to do a couple things for you. If you're interested in communicating with us and giving us some feedback, there are a couple ways you can do that. The first is you can follow us on Twitter. Our handle is @BP_Bragan_Panda, and that can also be found in the description wherever you're listening. In addition, if you'd like to email us and give us some more feedback, you can do that at contact.battingpractice contact.battingpractice@gmail.com. Again, that's contact.battingpractice@gmail.com. And we would love to hear your feedback. We'd love to get a follow on Twitter, and we will generously follow you back because we want to create an atmosphere where there's a lot of interaction between you and between us. So we really enjoy that. We want to hear your feedback. We really value your feedback because that's ultimately what will drive this podcast. We want to do what you guys want to hear. So give us that feedback. We're going to listen to all of it, take it all into consideration, and then really put the best show out there that you guys want to hear. The last thing I quickly want to point out is that we'd love to replace the silly ads we do on this podcast with ones that are actually real. So if you have a website, a name, a company, a product that you'd like to advertise, we'd love to help you do that. So just contact us again. You can through Twitter, but the best way would be through email. And again, that email is contact.battingpractice@gmail.com. Now I'm going to turn things over to Bragan to give us a quick update about one of our good friends.
Any of you guys that are on Pennant Chase or use the boards there are probably aware of what's going on with our buddy Howe Matthew. Just last week, his house burned down. He lost just about everything, including his dog. Really sad series of events for him. But I have been in contact with him throughout the week. He's doing all right. Everybody's okay. He's staying positive. So I just wanted to give you that quick update on him, let you guys know that he's definitely in good spirits. Send your best thoughts his way. It would be greatly appreciated. So thank you guys.
Once again, we appreciate you guys listening to us. Chio, thanks for joining us tonight. It was a pleasure having you.
Always. Same to you guys.
And as always, Bragan, it was a pleasure. We always have fun doing this, and I hope it can be something that we continue.
Yeah, can't wait to hear the feedback. Definitely leave us some comments. I believe this is going to get posted on YouTube this week. Maybe give us some ideas on some good podcast sites to put it on. We've got a couple in mind, but not set on one yet. So yeah, just give us all the feedback you can, guys, because we're really looking forward to that. Tell us what you want to hear more or less of. Just anything that you can offer up would be greatly appreciated because we definitely want this to grow outside of Pennant Chase. So thanks for listening, guys. Can't wait to talk to you next week.
Once again, you've been listening to Batting Practice with Bragan and Panda. We're so glad you guys joined us, and we will talk to you guys next week.
Bye.